Well, welcome back. I'm George. Hey, as always, we're glad to be here with you. Please don't forget, comment below. We answer all the comments, or you can get in touch with me. There's my phone number. You know, I know crazy me, I put the phone number out and people actually call it. So we enjoy that. So for all you hobbyists in our community, we're going to do something again today that we haven't done in a little while, but we're going to do one. We're going to take you, I wanted you to be with me on this journey. We're going to use the blueberry, remember that blueberry mead I had before? I told you I had another bucket? Well, it's time. So I'm gonna take this blueberry mead, and you can hear it now. It's inside my Turbo 500. Now, a long time ago, we did the Turbo 500, and if you're familiar, the Turbo 500 is capable of stripping everything and producing 180 proof, almost start to finish. But you have to kind of work with it a little bit, because that's what it does. It's designed to do that. But if you remove all the rashing rings and everything in the center of that puppy, well then it starts to lose its reflux efficiency. So what does that mean? Well, that means it starts to act like a pot still. You follow me? No, and so what's a pot still do? A pot still will always retain that flavor and character of whatever you got in your kettle. So that's what we're going to do. But what we're going to do in here this time is I've got a fresh Madagascar vanilla bean, and I'm going to slice that up, and we're going to add that inside the column. And now I know you're going to ask, where do you put it? In the column, all right? You don't have to tape it in, just put it in the column. And then I have one of my muslin socks, and that's usually made, we use this for beer, for hops. You know, to put hops inside a beer so we can pull it back out. Oops. And what I'm going to do is, remember that coconut we made that day, the coconut rum? I've got a lot of coconut left, so we're going to fill this with some coconut, and we're going to add this to the column. So what happens at this point? At this point, those vapors are going to rise. They're going to rise through, now first of all, they're blueberry. And it's a blueberry mead, 14% alcohol by volume. Those vapors are going to rise through our vanilla bean and pick up those flavors. It's also going to rise through our coconut, pick up that flavor. All of that's going to blend, and we will have a blueberry vanilla coconut brandy on the back end. So what do you think about that? Stick with us and we'll be with you shortly. Let me get this all set up and we'll explain more. I've got my hop sock. You see what I've done with it? I'll put coconut flakes in there. Now, what we know from experience is that coconuts, they are a little bit starchy, and what they'll do is they'll expand a little bit, they get sticky, and they'll stick together. So if you put them all in one place, they'll just cause a stoppage. So what we've done is we put a little bit in your end sock, you tie a knot, just a little bit more, and tie knots all the way up, because we want to distill through this. We don't want this to explode and stop it up. So we make it a lot smaller than the circumference of the inside diameter of the column, and these will lie in here. We'll be back. Good news. We've got everything up and running now, and you'll know on the T500, the temperature that we're tracking here, I've got this one in Fahrenheit. We're looking anywhere between 131 and 140 degrees, but we'll fine tune that when it comes. We're at 67.1 right now. But the T500 tracks the temperature of the output or the outport of the water, as opposed to a normal still that you and I normally run, any kind of still, pot, reflux. You know, we always track that head temperature, and we're looking for what? A 172, remember that? 145 for methanol, and then 172 begins our ethanol, within a range, of course. Now, the designers and makers theorize, and correctly, that if we can get the correct temperature here of the water flow coming out, well, then that means that everything before this point must be happening correctly. And it's true, that's true. If the output water that goes through this torpedo in here, that's cooling the vapor that comes across and comes out into our jug, if that temperature is correct, then that's happening, so that means that anything prior to that is true. It's working. Now, we also have a lot of flexibility because we can adjust it. And what we'll do is when we get closer to this, since we've taken all of the packing out and we've included the vanilla beans and the coconut, we're going to adjust this to match our flow, which is what? Drip, 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 spurt, drip, 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 spurt. And when that starts, I'll be back. We're running at a rapid 160 degrees. Now, again, remember we talked about that. It's about, well, we're just tracking the temperature of the water on the outport of the water flow. So we're at 160.5, and I'm running pencil lead size, stream, drip, 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 and stream. So this thing is running absolutely efficient. And I just gotta, what an odor, what an odor. We don't have smell-o-vision, so all I can tell you is that the notes that I've put in that column are coming through. And we'll give you an update just a little while, because of course we're gonna use our proof and trail hydrometer to test the proof of our brandy that's coming out. Remember, blueberry, vanilla, coconut. Now this is what I call progress. We're about, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half, almost 2 hours into it, and we probably got maybe two quarts there. And so I've got my test jar out because I'm not using a parrot in this particular case. And right now, with my proof and trail hydrometer, I've got about 160 proof. Let me see, I make sure that I can get that around so you can see. Yeah, it's 160 proof. Now, what does that tell me? Remember, every time we talk, I'm always looking for data points, especially if you have an issue. So at 160 proof, I know that from that point, if I'm going to stop my still at 100 proof, I've got quite a ways to go. So that means that there's still quite a bit of alcohol left in there that I'm going to transfer over. And the notes of the vanilla and the coconut are there. But what I'm doing is I'm making sure I have a data point now at this point, so I'll know what I can do. I can predict when I could potentially shut this down. And what I'm thinking is when I get to 3/4 of a gallon, I'm going to bet that, just going to guess that we're probably at about 130 proof. Because you know that it precipitously will go down as the volume in the kettle changes. So when that happens, we'll be back with you, and I'll show you that. Well, as we're waiting, of course, we have plenty of time to cover other topics. So here's one real quick one for you that I talk about all the time, and that's the differences between the two scales. Now, this is a specific gravity scale for beer and wine, mash, and this is what you use in order to, get your data points for your fermentation. Because you know that once you call me if we have an issue, I'll always say, well, what was the starting gravity? That always, we need a data point to begin with. So that's where you use these. Now, after fermentation, of course, you'll need one of these. This is the proof and trail hydrometer, which of course is totally different scales. And as a matter of fact, if you match them up, they look like this. So what happens if you put in a proof and trail hydrometer into our test cylinder of the spirits that we're running? Well, look at this. It's going to float at just about 160 proof, 80% alcohol. And that's what it's supposed to do. But now, why can't we use a regular specific gravity hydrometer? And I've explained this to you before, because the daggone thing will disappear. Well, watch this. Now, this is a regular specific gravity beer and wine hydrometer. And it just floats to the bottom. It just goes all the way to the bottom. Now that's why you can't use, they're two different scales, so please don't get them mixed up.